Monsters do have their place. In the zoo, in your nightmares, in your favorite horror movies, but not in your living room, on your TV.
In case you pass out, that's...
It's the 13 days of Halloween, and we're making our way right along through the decades. Today we're stopping in the 50s. This is the atomic age of horror movies, and the Cold War was well underway, and the horror market was closely tied with science fiction. Theaters were flooded with giant monsters born of toxic radiation, space aliens, mutants, things like that. The market was oversaturated with tons of monsters, introducing the world to long-lasting classics like Godzilla and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. But for every classic, there was a seemingly unlimited supply of bottom-tier monsters such as Roman from Robot Monster, who has since become a poster child for terrible B-movies, but more on him another time.
Very well. I will recalculate.
Our movie today is luckily one of the classics, with 1958's The Blob.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall.
The Blob starts out with a cool animated title sequence, complete with an absolute jam of a song.
Beware of the blob.
But don't let the fun music fool you. This movie takes itself seriously, although it's not too serious that it comes off as cheesy. Steve McQueen makes his starring debut here and is totally a teenager and definitely not 28 years old.
I don't know.
He's enjoying a night out with his girlfriend when a meteor lands nearby, spawning the Blob, a jelly-like alien creature that absorbs its victims and constantly grows. Steve catches on, and when the local authorities don't believe him,
Well, there's your answer right there. They're just the kind of kids that pull a trick like this.
he recruits several other 36-year-old, 17-year-olds to take matters into their own hands. I know I'm getting on the actors' ages here, but can you really blame me? None of them look like they've even seen a high school in the last decade. At least they act like teenagers? I guess.
Excuse me. We were just looking for a monster.
The Blob itself is a pretty cool monster despite being a really simple idea. It's a monster that acts more like a force of nature than a tangible creature. It has no personality to speak of, it's just a literal blob that grows bigger with any life form it encounters. Its first victim is an old man that's slowly absorbed by a small, colorless blob. Eventually it grows big enough to cover a whole diner and nothing can stop it. There are some great subtle effects at work as the blob gets more and more red with every victim it claims, making good use of the color film, which was more common in the 50s, but was rare for these types of movies. The creature effects are very simple, but they still hold up. The Blob is all practical and made to look huge thanks to clever use of well-made miniatures. The movie theater scene is a standout as one of the more famous scenes in horror history, and still looks great from these very simple effects. People didn't have a lot of faith in this movie during production, but it ended up being a huge success and a pop culture icon. That song I mentioned even charted in the top 50 back in the day.
Beware of the blob.
The Blob has quite the following. The town of Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, where the movie was filmed on location, hosts the annual Blob Fest, where the movie is celebrated. The Blob itself even makes an appearance. By the way, it's made of silicone and food coloring. It also lives in a bucket. If you haven't been introduced to the Blob yet, go ahead and check it out. It's well worth your time.
Pleasant nightmares, friend.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch.
Good midnight to you.